It all started on a chilly October evening in 2025. The kind where the wind sneaks through the cracks of old cottages in Littlehampton, a quiet town on England's south coast. I was working late at the observatory, the kind of place where you spend more time chatting with machines than humans, when the news broke. The interstellar visitor, which the folks at the Royal Greenwich Observatory had nicknamed 3i Atlas, had just reached its closest point to our sun. But this wasn't your garden-variety comet making its usual show. No, this one was acting, well, weird. I remember staring at the screen, trying to make sense of the data streaming in. The brightness of 3i Atlas wasn't just increasing. It was exploding, doubling its brightness at a pace that made even the most seasoned astronomers scratch their heads. There I was with my mug of lukewarm tea, thinking, great, just what I needed. Another cosmic mystery to keep me awake at night. Mind you, I wasn't complaining. It's not every day you get to witness something that might rewrite the textbooks. Now, let me paint a picture of 3i Atlas as best as I could from what I saw on the monitors. Imagine a faint, stretched-out glow, like a ghostly smear of blue-white light, but with no dust tail. That's right, no tail. The kind of tail you see in every other comet you've ever heard of, trailing behind like a cosmic scarf fluttering in the solar wind. But this one, nada. Just this eerie, elongated glow, like a celestial cigarette that had forgotten to leave a smoke trail. I spoke with my colleague, Dr. Carl Bateman, stationed at the Naval Research Facility in Portsmouth. Carl's a sharp bloke, normally unflappable, but even he admitted this was something else. It's losing water molecules at a rate that's off the charts, he said, voice tinged with disbelief. To put it in numbers that make your head spin, we're talking about 5.7 times 10 to the 28th water molecules per second. Imagine a fire hose turned on full blast, but instead of water spraying over a garden, it's pouring out into the vacuum of space. You might think, well, comets heat up near the sun. Ice turns to gas, brightness goes up, nothing shocking there. But 3i Atlas broke that mold. Its rate of change was all wrong, the timing suspiciously perfect. It was as if the thing was waiting for the exact moment to make its dramatic entrance, like a cosmic diva hitting her cue spot on stage. Then came the twist that really set the scientific community buzzing. Spectral analysis revealed the comet's light was bluer than the sun's own spectrum, an indicator of carbon molecules and some nitrogen compounds. Active ice sublimation, sure, but the speed and scale were unprecedented. Space telescopes like SOHO and the new GOES 19 caught the comet during Perihelion, and the images were baffling. No das tal. Just gas emissions. It was like watching a firework that forgot to explode. One theory floated around was that a thick layer of carbon dioxide gas was initially shielding the comet's surface, keeping the water ice under wraps. But once that layer dissipated, the water ice got blasted by solar radiation, causing the sudden brightening. That's the official line. But I have to admit, the idea that this visitor's nucleus might be fundamentally different from anything we've ever seen before made me pause. After all, this thing formed around a star light years away, in an environment we can barely imagine. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't intrigued, and a bit unnerved. What if there's something inside that nucleus we don't understand yet? Something unexpected? While I mulled over these thoughts, a message popped into my inbox from Professor Avi Lowe, the former head of astronomy at Cambridge. He was pushing hard for NASA to release all their data on 3i Atlas to the public. Transparency, he argued. The world deserves to see the full picture. I couldn't agree more. If there's one thing this visitor has taught us, it's that sometimes the universe likes to keep its secrets close. As I looked out over the darkening sky, I couldn't shake the feeling that we were on the edge of something far bigger than a comet's fiery dance. 3i Atlas wasn't just passing through. It was challenging everything we thought we knew about space, about comets, about the very nature of the cosmos. And as it slipped away from the sun, heading back into the darkness, I wondered, what mysteries was it carrying in its ancient heart? The night air was crisp as I wrapped my coat tighter around me, stepping out from the observatory into the quiet streets of Littlehampton. I needed a break from the endless streams of data, the blinking lights, and the hum of computers. Sometimes, when the universe throws you a curveball like 3i Atlas, you just have to step back and wonder, What the heck are we really looking at? Back inside, though, the story was only getting weirder. The James Webb Space Telescope had turned its gaze toward this visitor, and its near-infrared spectrograph was singing a strange tune. According to Dr. Roma Maggiolo over at the Royal Belgian Institute for Space Astronomy, cosmic rays, those high-energy particles zipping through the galaxy, had been bombarding 3I Atlas for billions of years. Enough to cook its surface like a cosmic rotisserie chicken. Imagine that. A crust, roughly 50 to 65 feet thick, hardened and transformed by relentless radiation. This wasn't the pristine ice ball we'd hoped to examine. It was more like a space-aged, irradiated shell, hiding whatever secrets lay beneath. Makes you wonder if the universe has a twisted sense of irony, sending us a cosmic message wrapped in a radioactive crust. I joked to Carl that maybe 3I Atlas was the galaxy's way of telling us, no peeking underneath. But neither of us found it very funny. This crust complicated everything. If the surface was so altered, how could we ever hope to glimpse its true origins? What if the heart of this comet held clues to a star system long gone, or even to something stranger? As the comet barreled past Perihelion, the closest point to our sun, the brightness didn't just peak. It surged explosively, like a cosmic light bulb suddenly cranked to full wattage. Yet, the usual dust tail remained stubbornly absent. It was as if the comet had ditched its usual accessories, showing up to the solar system's party in a sleek, minimalist look. No glitter, no fanfare, just an eerie, elongated glow. I couldn't help but picture it as some interstellar James Bond, cool and mysterious, with secrets it wasn't ready to spill. And speaking of style, the images from space telescopes showed this elongated glow shimmering with a bluish hue, a spectral signature that told us carbon molecules and amidogen compounds were present. Fancy names, but what it meant was that active ice was sublimating. Only it was happening on a scale and at a speed that defied our best models. While the geeks like me were losing sleep over these details, the public was mostly oblivious. Yet, a few amateur astronomers had started tracking the comet with small backyard telescopes, whispering about the ghost comet with the missing tail. I smiled, imagining a bunch of stargazers squinting into the night, hunting for a comet that didn't quite behave like one. Then there was the question of its trajectory. 3I Atlas wasn't just cruising through our neighborhood. It was blazing a straight, flat path at over 130,000 miles per hour. That's faster than a commuter train on steroids and not something you see every day in the solar system. No loops, no curves, just a clean pass-through, like a cosmic express train with no intention of stopping. Carl and I debated what that meant. It's definitely not from around here, he said, eyes gleaming with a mix of excitement and disbelief. It's a traveler, a true interstellar nomad. And that brought me back to the age estimates, somewhere between 7 and 12 billion years old, which is like saying this thing was ancient before our sun had even flickered to life. I found it staggering. This comet had been drifting through the galactic wilderness since before Earth was more than a molten rock. It had witnessed eons, passed by stars and planets, survived cosmic storms and radiation that would turn ordinary matter to dust. Yet here it was, hurtling through our solar system, throwing us a cosmic puzzle wrapped in blue light and mystery. As the night deepened, I thought about Professor Suzanne Falsner's radical idea that objects like 3I Atlas might not just be space junk but seeds for planets. Imagine that, billions of years ago, this comet could have been the core around which a whole world might have formed, if only it had been captured by a star's gravity. A building block of a planet that never was. I looked up at the stars, feeling a strange kinship with that ancient wanderer. Here we both were, drifting through space and time, caught in our own orbits but connected by the vastness of the cosmos. And as 3I Atlas slipped further from the sun's warm embrace, I knew the next chapter of this story was just beginning. But amid all the scientific wonder, a nagging question remained. What, if anything, was hiding beneath that irradiated crust? And could we ever peel back the layers to find out? Little did I know the answers, or at least more questions, were about to come crashing down in ways none of us expected. The following morning, I found myself back at the observatory, the early England fog lingering over the rooftops like a thick woolen blanket. My mind was still tangled in the mysteries of 3I Atlas, the cosmic enigma that refused to fit the neat boxes we scientists usually rely on. I brewed a fresh pot of coffee, the bitter aroma filling the cramped room, and settled in to review the latest spectroscopic data streaming from the James Webb Space Telescope. The images were captivating. They revealed a surface unlike any comet we'd ever seen, an irradiated crust, baked and altered by billions of years of cosmic ray bombardment. The crust was estimated to be some 50 to 65 feet thick, a hardened shell that had transformed the comet's outer layers into something more akin to a cosmic rock candy than pristine ice. It was like the comet had aged in fast forward, the harshness of interstellar space leaving its mark, a story etched in radiation. As I pored over the data, I couldn't help but imagine what the interior might be like. Beneath that crust, was there still untouched ice, frozen gases, perhaps the primordial ingredients from the comet's home star system? Or had the cosmic rays penetrated so deeply that even the core had been transformed into something alien? It was a question that kept me awake at night. Meanwhile, the comet's behavior near perihelion continued to baffle. The expected dust tail was missing, replaced by an elongated glow dominated by gas emissions. Normally, comets shed dust as their ices sublimate, creating the spectacular tails that make them visible to stargazers and amateur astronomers alike. But not 3I Atlas. It was as if it had left its glittery accessories at home, arriving in a stark, minimalist fashion. The scientific community was buzzing with theories. One suggested that carbon dioxide gas had been escaping from the comet's surface at a distance of about 3 astronomical units, acting like a protective shield by cooling the nucleus and preventing water ice sublimation. But once that CO2 layer depleted, the water ice underneath suddenly faced the sun's intense radiation, triggering the explosive brightening we witnessed. It made sense on paper, but the speed and scale of the changes were unlike anything recorded before. I chuckled to myself, imagining the comet as a diva peeling off a heavy cloak just before stepping into the spotlight, dramatic and sudden. "Well, 3I," I muttered. "You certainly know how to make an entrance." But there was a darker, more intriguing possibility. What if the comet's internal structure was fundamentally unlike anything we'd encountered? Formed in an alien stellar environment, shaped by conditions we can barely fathom, 3I Atlas might be harboring secrets that defied our earthly understanding of cometary physics. Professor Avi Lowe's recent call for NASA to release all data on the comet added another layer of tension. Transparency, he argued, was essential for the global scientific community to piece together the puzzle. I agreed wholeheartedly. After all, the universe wasn't a place to hoard secrets, especially not when it tossed us something this extraordinary. As the afternoon light streamed weakly through the observatory windows, I received an urgent message from Carl Bateman. The Mars rovers, Curiosity and Perseverance, had managed to capture some unique observations of 3I Atlas from their vantage points on the Red Planet. This was a rare opportunity, 2 robotic eyes on another world, watching the comet interact directly with the solar wind. The data hadn't been fully analyzed yet, but preliminary reports hinted at plasma instabilities and magnetic field distortions in the comet's coma, the cloud of gas and dust surrounding its nucleus. These phenomena could reveal insights into the comet's composition and structure that Earth-based telescopes simply couldn't provide. Carl joked that the comet was probably causing quite a fuss on Mars, like an unwelcome guest crashing a quiet party. I laughed, but inside, I felt a thrill. We were watching a cosmic drama unfold in real time, with actors and effects spanning millions of miles and countless variables. Yet, amid all the excitement, a nagging unease settled in. The comet's trajectory was too perfect, too straight, too fast. At over 130,000 miles per hour, it was shooting through our solar system like a bullet, unbothered by the gravitational nudges that usually tweak an object's path. It was as if 3I Atlas was obeying a script written far beyond our understanding. I found myself wondering if this visitor was more than just a cosmic wanderer. Was it possible that its behavior hinted at something deliberate? Something designed? I shook the thought away. Scientists don't jump to conclusions without evidence. But sometimes the evidence itself refuses to follow the script. As evening fell, I stepped outside once more, the sky deepening to a velvet black speckled with stars. Somewhere out there, 3I Atlas was slipping away from the sun's warmth, its secrets locked beneath that mysterious irradiated crust. And I knew that the real story, the heart of this cosmic mystery, was only just beginning. The following night, the observatory felt quieter than usual, almost reverent, as if the ancient walls themselves sensed the weight of the moment. Outside, the cool autumn breeze rustled the amber leaves scattered across the cobblestones of Littlehampton's High Street, but inside, the atmosphere was electric. Telescopes across England, and indeed around the world, were trained on 3I Atlas, the enigma that refused to behave like any comet we'd known. I sat hunched over the console, eyes flicking between spectral graphs and trajectory charts, trying to make sense of the latest data. The comet's brightness had reached a visual magnitude of about 9, technically visible through small amateur telescopes, but frustratingly close to the sun's glare, making ground-based observation nearly impossible during its perihelion passage. That meant we had to rely on our space-based sentinels, SOHO, Stereo A, and the GOES 19 satellite, all equipped with coronagraphs designed to shield the sun's overwhelming light, giving us a glimpse of the comet's ghostly form. What struck me was the absence of the dust tail, a signature feature of comets that had become almost romanticized over centuries. It was like expecting a grand fireworks display and instead getting a single, steady blue flame. This lack of dust wasn't just a minor quirk. It was a glaring anomaly. Comets, after all, are cosmic snowballs studded with rock and dust, and when the sun warms them, that dust is released, forming the spectacular tails we adore. So where was the dust from 3I Atlas? Some suggested that the comet's nucleus might be unusually ice-rich, with little solid material to generate dust. But even that didn't fully explain the explosive brightening we'd observed. It was as if the comet had thrown off its usual makeup and was showing us a new face, one that defied our expectations and challenged our models. I glanced over at the team assembling in the control room, their faces illuminated by the glow of monitors and data streams. Among them was Dr. Emma Collins, a young astrophysicist with a sharp wit and an eye for detail. She was the kind of person who could spot a pattern in chaos, and tonight her brow was furrowed in concentration. "Any luck, Emma?" I asked, trying to keep the fatigue out of my voice. She sighed. "The more we look, the less it makes sense. The comet's activity doesn't correlate cleanly with solar heating. There are fluctuations, surges, and pauses that don't fit the usual sublimation cycles. It's almost like it has an internal rhythm, or a trigger." I raised an eyebrow. "A trigger? Like what? A cosmic alarm clock?" She smirked. "Something like that. Maybe it's responding to more than just heat, magnetic fields, radiation thresholds, or who knows what else." Her words lingered in the air, heavy with implication. It wasn't science fiction nonsense. It was a serious hypothesis born from stubborn anomalies. Meanwhile, the debate about the comet's origin and nature was heating up in academic circles. Some researchers clung to the comforting idea that 3I Atlas was simply a comet with unusual properties, sculpted by billions of years of cosmic radiation. Others whispered more provocative theories. Was it possible, just possible, that this was not just a natural object but something engineered? A probe, perhaps, sent across the stars eons ago, designed to activate under specific conditions. I couldn't help but think of the stories I'd read about ancient explorers and secret messages hidden in plain sight. What if, deep beneath that irradiated crust, there lay something waiting to wake up? Something that had been dormant for billions of years, now stirring as it approached our sun. The night stretched on, and as the clocks ticked towards midnight, I found myself alone on the observatory's roof, gazing at the vast canvas of stars. Somewhere out there, 3I Atlas was racing away from us, back into the darkness it had come from. Yet the questions it left behind burned brighter than any comet tail. What if the comet's sudden outburst wasn't a coincidence? What if it was a message or a warning? And if so, who or what was meant to receive it? Before I could dwell further, my phone buzzed with an urgent alert. The James Webb Telescope had picked up a sudden spike in emissions from the comet signals that didn't match any known natural patterns. The data was preliminary, but it hinted at something active, something alive in a way that defied explanation. I felt a chill run down my spine. The universe had just thrown down a gauntlet, and it was up to us to pick it up. Tonight, the mystery of 3I Atlas deepened, and the cosmic stage was set for revelations none of us could yet imagine. The morning after that restless night, the observatory buzzed with a restless energy, half excitement, half apprehension. Word had spread fast. The James Webb Telescope's latest readings on 3I Atlas showed irregular spikes in emission, signals that didn't fit any cometary pattern we'd ever cataloged. In other words, the comet might be, well, doing something unexpected. I was still nursing a cold cup of coffee when Dr. Emma Collins burst through the door, her bright red scarf trailing behind her like a comet's tail. Ironically enough, she was dressed casually, but there was something about the way her dark leather boots clicked on the floor that made you think she was ready to chase down a cosmic mystery at a moment's notice. "Matt," she said, catching my eye with a grin that didn't quite reach the seriousness underneath. "You won't believe what the Webb data's showing. We're seeing bursts of infrared emissions that seem almost cyclic. Like a heartbeat." "A heartbeat," I repeated, eyebrows raised. "Are we talking about a comet with a pulse now?" She laughed, but it was tinged with nervous excitement. "I know it sounds bonkers, but these bursts are too regular to be random. It's like something inside the nucleus is waking up, responding to the sun's energy in a pattern." I ran a hand through my hair, trying to shake off the grogginess. "So what's the leading theory? Some kind of natural resonance? The comet's crust cracking? Outgassing cycles?" Emma shrugged. "Those explanations don't fit the timing or intensity. The crust cracking would be more sporadic, chaotic. This feels deliberate or at least driven by some internal mechanism." Her words hung in the air, a tantalizing whisper of possibility. I glanced at the screen where the data flickered, a series of peaks and valleys, like a faint rhythm against the cosmic background. Carl Bateman joined us shortly after, his usual calm demeanor replaced by a rare spark of urgency. "If these signals are real," he said, "we're looking at something unprecedented. No natural comet we know behaves this way. It's like the comet's got a secret, and it's trying to tell us." The thought sent a shiver down my spine. I pictured 3I Atlas as a silent messenger, carrying stories from a time before Earth even existed, now trying to communicate across billions of miles and years. Later that day, I met up with Emma at a nearby cafe, a cozy little spot tucked away from the bustle of the town. She was sipping a cappuccino, her fingers wrapped around the warm cup, eyes alive with the thrill of discovery. "Do you ever wonder," she mused, "if we've been looking for signs of life in the wrong way? Maybe it's not about radio signals or alien broadcasts. Maybe it's in the behavior of objects like 3I Atlas, coded messages hidden in ice and dust." I smiled. "So, you're saying the universe might be sending us encrypted postcards? Cosmic postcards with a blue tint?" Emma laughed, the sound light but charged with excitement. "Exactly, and we're just starting to decode the envelope." As she spoke, I couldn't help but notice how she carried herself. The way her dark curls fell just so, the subtle curve of her neckline, the delicate silver pendant resting against her collarbone. There was something quietly magnetic about her, a mix of intellect and warmth that made you want to lean in closer, to listen harder. But there was no time for distractions. The universe was demanding our full attention. Back at the observatory, the team was running simulations, trying to match the emission patterns with known physical processes. Every model fell short. The comet's behavior was rewriting the rulebook in real time. And just when we thought the mystery couldn't deepen any further, a new piece of data arrived. A faint but distinct radio signal emanating from the comet's direction. It was weak, almost indistinguishable from background noise, but unmistakably there. Carl stared at the readout, disbelief etched across his face. If this holds up, it could change everything. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the lab, I felt the weight of the moment settling in. We were standing at the edge of something vast and unknown, a cosmic puzzle stretching across time and space. 3I Atlas wasn't just a comet anymore. It was a riddle, an invitation to look deeper, to question harder. And as the night wrapped its velvet cloak around Little Hampton, I knew one thing for certain. The universe was about to reveal a secret, and we were the only ones close enough to listen. That evening, the observatory hummed softly under the low glow of computer screens and scattered desk lamps, the kind of quiet where every beep and click seemed magnified. I settled into my chair, the leather creaking beneath me, and stared at the latest radio data from 3i Atlas. The signal was faint but persistent, like a whispered secret across the void. Emma was beside me, her amber eyes reflecting the spectral graphs as she traced the signal's irregular pulses with a finger. "It's almost like it's modulated," she murmured. "Not random noise. There's structure here, patterns repeating." I leaned closer, trying not to let the excitement betray itself. "Patterns? You mean like a code?" She nodded slowly. "Possibly. Or at least some form of structured emission. Nothing natural comets do." The thought sent a shiver down my spine. A comet sending a message? It sounded like something out of a sci-fi thriller. But the data didn't lie. We were staring at something entirely new. Later, as the night deepened, Carl joined us with a fresh batch of observations from the Mars rovers. "The plasma interactions we're seeing are far more complex than expected," he reported, voice low but intense. "Magnetic field distortions, particle acceleration, almost as if the comet's nucleus is actively interacting with the solar wind, not just passively reacting." Emma whistled softly. "So, not just a cosmic snowball melting in the sun, but something dynamic. Alive, maybe." I glanced at her, noting the way the dim light caught the curve of her neck and the delicate chain around it. Even in the midst of cosmic mysteries, there was a human warmth that grounded us. But the implications were staggering. If 3i Atlas was exhibiting behaviors that suggested internal mechanisms or even intelligence, what did that mean for our understanding of the cosmos? Were we witnessing a natural phenomenon pushed to extremes by eons of cosmic radiation? Or was this something else entirely? The question echoed in my mind as I stepped outside for a breath of night air. The sky stretched wide and clear, stars twinkling like distant beacons. Somewhere out there, 3i Atlas was moving away from the sun, its secrets locked beneath that irradiated crust. Yet now it felt less like a silent visitor and more like a cosmic messenger, one whose story we were only beginning to grasp. Back inside, the team was abuzz with theories and debates. Some cautioned against jumping to conclusions. After all, extraordinary claims demand extraordinary evidence. Others, myself included, felt the thrill of standing on the brink of discovery. Emma caught my eye across the room and smiled. A small, knowing smile that said, "We're in this together." As the hours slipped by, I couldn't shake the feeling that 3i Atlas was more than a comet. It was a challenge, a puzzle, a silent call from the depths of space and time. And as dawn's first light filtered through the windows, one thing was clear. The universe had just opened a door, and we were the ones holding the key. The days that followed felt like living inside a whirlwind of data and speculation. The world outside Little Hampton carried on with its usual rhythm, commuters hustling along the high street, cafes filling with the comforting hum of conversation. But inside the observatory, time seemed to bend around 3i Atlas's relentless mysteries. One afternoon, as a pale English sun filtered through the stained glass windows, Emma and I found ourselves alone in the main control room. She was dressed casually in a soft emerald sweater that hugged her figure just enough to hint at curves beneath, paired with dark jeans and those ever-present leather boots that somehow made her look both fierce and approachable. A delicate silver bracelet encircled her wrist, catching the light as she gestured animatedly at the screen. "We've been staring at this data for weeks," she said, voice low but charged. "And yet, every time we think we've got a handle on it, the comet throws us another curveball." I nodded, sipping on a tepid cup of tea. Like the missing dust tail, the sudden outbursts, and now those rhythmic radio signals. It's like it's alive, or at least trying to be. Emma's eyes sparkled with a mix of excitement and something softer, more human. "You ever wonder what it would be like if we could actually talk to it? Not just listen, but respond?" I laughed softly. "I'm not sure the universe has a voicemail box, but if it did, I'd leave a message. Hello, this is Earth. We come in peace. Also, do you accept postcards? She smiled, the kind of smile that made the room feel a little warmer, a little less cold and technical. Maybe it's waiting for us to figure out how to speak its language. Our conversation was interrupted by a sharp ping from the console. Carl's voice crackled over the intercom, tense and urgent. Matt, Emma, you need to see this. The latest spectrographic analysis from Webb shows a sudden shift in molecular signatures. We're detecting unexpected compounds, complex organic molecules that shouldn't be there. My heart skipped. Organic molecules? That's the kind of discovery that sends ripples through the scientific community. Could hint at prebiotic chemistry or something even more profound. Emma's brow furrowed. Could it be contamination? Instrument error. Carl's response was firm. Double-checked everything. It's real. Whatever's happening inside 3I Atlas is far more complex than we imagined. I felt a thrill mixed with unease. The comet was revealing layers of itself like a slow-burning enigma, teasing us with glimpses of secrets it had guarded for billions of years. Later that evening, as I walked through the quiet streets toward my flat, the sky above was a deep indigo, stars scattered like diamonds. I thought about the comet's journey, billions of years drifting through the darkness, battered by cosmic rays, transformed by radiation, and now, somehow, alive with strange activity. What if, beneath that irradiated shell, there was a core still untouched, pristine material from a star system long gone? Or perhaps something else entirely, something that had been waiting for the right moment to awaken? The questions swirled in my mind, mingling with the night air. Back at the observatory, Emma was already poring over the latest datasets, her determination unwavering. There was a fire in her, a passion that made the impossible feel within reach. And as I looked up at the stars once more, I realized that this wasn't just a scientific quest. It was a journey into the unknown, a dance with the cosmos itself. 3I Atlas had come to visit, and in doing so, it had changed everything. The universe was whispering its secrets, and for once, we were listening. The next morning dawned cool and gray, the kind of day when Little Hampton's mist clings stubbornly to the rooftops and the distant sea is just a shadow on the horizon. Inside the observatory, the air was thick with anticipation. The latest batch of data from the Webb telescope had arrived overnight, and the team gathered around the main console like detectives at a crime scene, desperate to piece together the comet story. Emma stood near me, fingers lightly tapping her chin as she studied the spectral readouts. Her auburn hair caught the pale light streaming through the window, cascading in loose waves down her back. She wore a fitted navy blouse, the delicate curve of her neck exposed just enough to hint at something intimate beneath the professional facade. It was a subtle reminder that even amid cosmic mysteries, humanity remained at the heart of our quest. "Look at this," Emma said softly, pointing at a cluster of unexpected absorption lines. "These molecules, they're more complex than anything we've seen in a comet before. Aromatic hydrocarbons, nitrogen-bearing compounds, potential precursors to amino acids." The room fell silent. We all knew what that could mean. The building blocks of life, nestled within an interstellar visitor hurtling through space for billions of years. Carl adjusted his glasses, voice steady but with an edge of awe. "If these readings are confirmed, 3I Atlas isn't just a comet. It's a relic of astrochemical processes that might have seeded life elsewhere. Or maybe even here." I swallowed hard, feeling the weight of the moment settle over us. The implications stretched far beyond the technical jargon and data points. This comet wasn't merely a frozen relic. It was a messenger carrying whispers of life's potential, a cosmic thread linking stars and planets across time. Suddenly, the intercom crackled to life. "All teams, prepare for coordinated observations," the director's voice ordered. "We're entering a critical phase. The comet's activity is expected to escalate." Within minutes, the observatory transformed into a hive of activity. Telescopes swiveled, instruments calibrated, and satellites adjusted their focus. Around the world, observatories joined the effort, united in a shared mission to decode 3I Atlas's secrets before it slipped beyond reach. As the hours ticked by, the comet's brightness fluctuated unpredictably, surging and fading like a celestial heartbeat. The rhythmic radio signals persisted, now joined by subtle pulses in the ultraviolet spectrum. Patterns emerged, complex, layered, and tantalizingly suggestive of something more than mere chance. Emma caught my eye across the room, her expression a blend of excitement and something deeper. Hope, maybe, or fear. "Matt," she whispered. "What if this is a call? A message meant for someone, or something?" I hesitated, the enormity of the question pressing down on me. Or maybe it's a warning. The thought lingered like a shadow, dark and unresolved. That night, as the comet continued its silent journey away from the sun, I found myself standing beneath the stars once more. The cool breeze whispered through the trees, carrying with it a sense of profound mystery. 3I Atlas was retreating into the depths of space, but it had left us with questions that would echo for years. Questions about life, the cosmos, and our place within it. And as I looked up at the vast expanse, I couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning. The universe was speaking, and we had only just begun to listen. The following evening, the observatory was bathed in the soft glow of monitors and the muted hum of machinery, a stark contrast to the storm of thoughts swirling in my mind. Outside, the autumn wind rattled the windows, as if impatient to shake loose the secrets 3I Atlas still held tight. Emma was seated nearby, her fingers dancing over the keyboard as she sifted through terabytes of data. She wore a sleek black jacket over a crimson blouse, the collar open just enough to reveal a slender silver chain resting against her collarbone. There was a quiet intensity about her, a magnetic focus that made the room feel charged with possibility. Suddenly, the room filled with the sharp chime of an alert. Carl's voice crackled over the intercom, tense but controlled. "Preliminary analysis from the Mars rovers has detected an unexpected surge in particle emissions from the comet's coma. This isn't just sublimation. It's active release, possibly from internal processes." Emma's eyes widened. "Internal processes? You mean, the comet's nucleus is changing?" I rubbed my chin, feeling the weight of the revelation settle like a stone. If that's true, then what we're seeing isn't just a passive traveler melting in the sun's heat. It's evolving. The thought was both exhilarating and unnerving. We'd long assumed comets were simple relics, frozen time capsules. But 3I Atlas was rewriting the rules. It was alive in its own alien way. As the hours ticked by, the comet's brightness surged again, sending waves of data that set our instruments buzzing. The rhythmic radio signals intensified, weaving complex patterns that teased at meaning but refused to yield their secrets easily. Emma leaned over, her voice barely above a whisper. "What if this is a form of communication? Not words as we know them, but signals, coded, layered, waiting for the right receiver." I met her gaze, the room suddenly feeling impossibly vast and intimate all at once. "And what if we're the intended audience?" A shiver ran down my spine. The idea seemed absurd, yet the evidence was mounting. 3I Atlas was no ordinary comet. It was a cosmic enigma, a messenger from the stars bearing riddles older than our solar system. Suddenly, the power flickered, and the monitors dimmed briefly. A storm was rolling in from the coast, thunder rumbling like distant drums. Outside, the wind howled, rattling the ancient panes as if echoing the comet's mysterious song. In that charged silence, a message pinged onto my personal terminal, an encrypted file from an anonymous source within the scientific community. The subject line read, 3I Atlas, what they're not telling us. I hesitated, fingers trembling as I opened it. Inside were raw datasets, images, and notes, data withheld from public release, anomalies dismissed or buried. Patterns that didn't fit official explanations, hints of something far stranger lurking beneath the surface. The final line chilled me. Asterisk, look deeper. The truth is closer than we think. Asterisk. Emma's voice broke through my thoughts. "Matt, what is it?" I swallowed hard, heart pounding. "I think We've just stepped into something much bigger than any of us imagined. Outside, the storm raged on, lightning illuminating the night sky in jagged flashes. And somewhere beyond our reach, 3i Atlas sailed onward, carrying its ancient secrets into the dark. The question wasn't what it was, but what it wanted us to discover. And the answer was waiting. The storm outside had settled into a steady drizzle by dawn, the streets of Littlehampton glistening under the pale morning light. Inside the observatory, the atmosphere was electric, tense but charged with purpose. The encrypted data I'd uncovered lingered on my screen like a puzzle daring to be solved. Emma stood beside me, her eyes sharp and unwavering despite the long hours. Her auburn hair was loosely tied back, a few strands escaping to frame her face, softening the intensity in her gaze. She wore a simple white blouse, the top button undone, revealing just a hint of a delicate gold necklace, a subtle contrast to the gravity of the moment. "We need to get this out," she said quietly. "The world deserves to know what's really happening." I nodded, fingers flying over the keyboard, as we prepared to release the data to trusted colleagues worldwide. Transparency was our only weapon against silence and secrecy. If 3i Atlas was more than a comet, if it was a message, a relic, or something else entirely, then hiding the truth would only delay the inevitable reckoning. As the data spread through secure channels, the scientific community erupted in a flurry of activity. Theories multiplied, collaborations formed overnight, and telescopes from every continent turned eagerly back to the skies. But amidst the frenzy, a shadow loomed. Whispers of interference, of pressure to silence certain findings, began to surface. The deeper we dug, the clearer it became that some truths were uncomfortable, even dangerous. Late one evening, as I packed up my notes, Emma approached with a furrowed brow. "Matt, there's something else. A pattern in the comet's behavior, an irregularity in its trajectory. It's subtle, but it suggests controlled adjustments, like deliberate course corrections." I stared at her, disbelief mingling with dread. "Are you saying it might be piloted?" She hesitated, then nodded. "Or at least influenced by something internal. Something intelligent." The room seemed to shrink around us as the implications settled like a weight. We were no longer observers of a passive visitor. We were witnesses to a cosmic enigma that defied explanation. And then came the final, haunting revelation. A faint but unmistakable signal embedded within the comet's emissions, repeating sequences that bore the hallmarks of a code, a message crafted with purpose. The universe had spoken, but its message was incomplete, a fragment of a story lost in the vastness of space and time. As 3i Atlas disappeared beyond the reach of our instruments, slipping back into the dark ocean between stars, one question remained burning in my mind. What had it come to tell us? And more importantly, would we be ready to listen when it returned? The mystery was far from over, and the next chapter was waiting to be written.